Understanding the investment banking job. What do investment banking analysts do? Within the M&A division, the main product is giving financial advice. This usually comes in the form of a pitch book or PowerPoint presentation. Usually, these pitch books are called discussion materials. They may include sections such as market overview, M&A opportunities, and valuation. Your job as an analyst is to create these pitch books for the managing directors that use them during presentations to clients. These clients are usually senior level management within a company. The day-to-day job also includes making PIBs, building financial models, creating industry overviews, and making company profiles. PIBs stand for Public Information Books, and they are given to senior bankers to get a quick update on the company. They include the most recent 10Qs, 10Ks, any recent news on the company, and equity research to see how the street views the companies and the most important topics at hand for these companies. How it works in investment banking is you're either assigned to a pitch or a live deal. Basically, a pitch is you're looking to pitch investment ideas to companies, for example, to acquire another company or to sell a non-core asset for your client. Afterward, once you're engaged in a deal, that deal becomes quote live. Essentially, a live deal means that you as the investment bank is being paid for financial advice. This is when investment banking actually makes money. When assigned different projects, live deals will always supersede pitches because live deals are where investment banks actually make money. Within live deals, there's various kinds. There's sell-side versus buy-side deals, where sell-side deals you're helping your company sell off an asset or the entire business in its entirety, or a buy-side deal where you're helping a company acquire another company. Generally speaking, as the investment banking group, you prefer to be on a sell-side deal versus buy-side deal just based on probabilities. For example, if you're trying to sell your company, you know that once you're hired and that a transaction goes through, you will be paid as the sell-side advisor. On the buy-side deal, you're helping your company acquire another company, one amongst many suitors for that company. And obviously, because there can only be one buyer and you being one of many buyers, your client may not acquire the company, so your chances of getting paid decreases. Other aspects of a live deal include data room management. For example, if you're selling your company, all the other acquiring companies will need to do a lot of financial diligence on your company. The sell side will set up what's called a data room, which is basically a virtual storage online of all the necessary documents for any buyer to understand the current financial stability and the growth profile of that business that you're looking to sell. Furthermore, as the investment banking analyst that's managing that data room, there will be plenty of diligence questions coming from each potential buyer, and it's your job to keep track of all the diligence questions and which buyers asked which questions. As a starting investment banking analyst, being organized is extremely important, and being on top of all your different projects is also very important. From the technical side, you gain a lot of technical proficiency in Microsoft Office. If you're a good analyst, you'll learn to not use a mouse when you're working in Excel. Virtually everything you do in Excel can be done through shortcuts and using a keyboard only. If you're really proficient in Excel, you're able to do everything without a mouse, and you'll be much faster than your counterparts using a mouse. On the PowerPoint side, you'll learn to be extremely detail-oriented. All your logos will be aligned perfectly, every page will be perfectly synced, and it'll be much more detailed than everything you've done in college, for example. The reason for this is because at the end of the day, most financial advice is somewhat a commodity, right? It's not that different to have financial advice from one investment bank to the other. So what's really valuable is that relationship with that senior banker that can bring in that business to the investment bank. So when it comes to the actual product, it is extremely important that everything looks professional, because at the end of the day, that PowerPoint piece is a commodity product. Here is an example of a list of common Excel shortcuts. As you can see, most shortcuts can be done using just the Alt key. By pressing down Alt, you'll see a little tab or a little underline underneath the first or the second letter of each of the tabs at the top of Excel, which will direct you to using these shortcuts, and you can figure out the 2 or 3 letters after Alt to navigate a certain shortcut. Who is most important to please in your group? On the job, there's the technical side, which is the stuff that we talked about just a bit ago, and then there's the human side of the job. Understanding who to please is probably more important in the long run to moving up at the job. This requires a level of EQ, so it's important to understand who to please in your group. So let's talk a little bit about the structure of a team. Deal teams are the assigned members to a live deal or a pitch book. For any given deal, the managing directors are the ones that have the relationship between the client and the investment bank. They are the most important. They bring in the potential revenue to an investment bank. They are the main points of contact with the client. The VPs, associates, and analysts act as part of the main deal team in creating the discussion materials for those managing directors. And the level between the VP and the managing director, either the senior VP, director, or executive director, those are different titles for a very similar role. Basically, the role underneath managing directors, those are basically the junior managing directors, where guys are looking to become a managing directors, and they're building out their own Rolodex of clients. Additional roles in any group. The group head is a managing director that sits above other managing directors, manages the group, and promotes directors to managing directors, and determines the bonus pool. Staffers are usually a VP or associate level, probably more a senior associate level banker, and potentially have 1 or 2 in each group. They determine your ranking as an analyst, could make potential hiring decisions, and also has a very good relationship with the rest of the group, particularly the senior bankers, in which the senior bankers depend heavily on these staffers to understand who the good analysts and associates are in the group, and also who to assign deals to. Finally, the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, or BUM, Business Unit Manager, may be a VP or entirely separate person from those bankers, and they usually run the operations of the group and is connected with HR. As an analyst, although everyone above you will rank you when it comes to bonus time, a few roles will have more weight than others. The associates work very closely with the analysts and will have a lot of input on the analysts, just given how closely they work together. But ultimately, it will be the staffer that will come up with a recommended ranking list and provide that to the group head. Rarely does the group head disagree with the staffer, as the staffer has a very trusted role in the group, and those that are assigned staffers are seen as future senior bankers in the group. Quantitative versus qualitative skills. A big part of your ranking is determined by your technical skills, which is your ability to do the job and get it done. Some big misconceptions to understand. Technical skills or modeling skills is not the only part of the pitch book. It's very possible that within a pitch book, the actual model or the actual technical side of the pitch book are only a few pages within the entire pitch book. The reason why technical skills are emphasized is because those technical skills are generally the more transferable skills to other jobs later in your career. But as a deal team, as a member of an investment banking deal team, the deal team itself cares about the whole pitch book. So skills related to your technical skills, such as understanding the industry and understanding what belongs within the pitch book, aside from the technical pages and the technical output, that's also very important. The soft skills are also extremely important and cannot be emphasized enough. At the end of the day, you are working with people, so it's very important that you are liked, because even if you are very good technically, but you are not liked, you will not be ranked highly, at least not the top in the staffer's eyes when he gives out rankings to the rest of the group. So there's a few ways to be liked. One is being able to see the future before it comes. For example, let's say you're working on a pitch book and you understand which pages should belong in the book, which pages would the group head like to see, which pages would the VP and the director in the group like to see within this book. If you can provide those pages and get that done before being asked, you make your senior bankers' lives a lot easier. Now, this isn't easy, especially if you just started on your job. So other things are important. For example, happy hours, work events, they still count as on the job. Do not let your guard down. When you're starting and you have nothing else to offer just because you're new to the group, that is why attitude is important. Because when you first start, people understand that you're new to the job, and people will give you some slack and understand it'll take time for you to get up the learning curve. But what that means is you, on the other side of this, need to give 100% effort and show good attitude as a trade-off for not having the technical skills just yet. So these happy hours, these work events, they are somewhat mandatory. Unless you are completely jammed with work, networking and maintaining relationships matter. I highly recommend doing your best to understand the group culture and fit in with the group. That means more so with those above you, not necessarily just with your fellow analysts on your level. Culture. Let's talk about expectations so you understand what the job is really like. The expected hours for an investment banking analyst can be 80 to 100 hour work week. That is real. And the reason being is because schedules are very hectic for senior bankers, presentations are done very quickly, and sometimes you do not get much of a heads up when something needs to be done. And this leads to why a lot of analysts are jammed and work very late nights or sometimes pull all-nighters. It's very possible to get comments or changes that are asked to be made for a pitch book on a Saturday or a Sunday, and that's due Monday for a meeting either on Monday or on Tuesday. This is also why bankers have a second phone just for work so they can see emails in real time and be able to respond as necessary any kind of urgent requests. For bankers, the typical hours on the job is somewhere starting around 9:30 in the morning and then ending sometime after dinner. One of the perks in working in investment banking is that you get dinners usually paid for by the company. But what that also means is that you'll probably be in the office past dinner time. If there's nothing to do for any particular night, you'll probably eat dinner in the office and then leave sometime thereafter, maybe between 8 and 10 p.m. If you're working on several projects that are pitch books or on a live deal, then you usually stay as late as needed so that you get your job done and the associate, VP, and rest of the team are happy for that night. In terms of understanding and prioritizing your work, generally speaking, live deals will always be prioritized over pitching. Your staffer will understand which deals are live and will always try to schedule your own projects so that your live deals will always supersede any pitch books. A little secret to understanding your ranking relative to your peers within the same class is seeing who gets these live deals. Obviously, live deals are much more important than pitches to an investment banking group. Your staffer will prioritize these live deals to the better analysts to make sure these live deals get done and they get done well. If after a year, for example, you're not on any live deals, that's probably not the best sign. Or if you're an analyst on the opposite side of the spectrum, where you're on multiple live deals and you can't handle any more capacity of live deals, then that probably means you're very well trusted and regarded in the group. With that said, it's important to understand how capacity works within a group. Each staffer will communicate differently in terms of how they assign projects coming down from the managing directors within the group. The good staffers will ask for a capacity update every week. In other words, they want to see a list of all the projects you're working on every Monday to understand your personal capacity. Now, part of this will be subjective. So not only will you be asked on all the projects that you're working on, but you're also asked to give a percent capacity available and how much capacity each project is using up for your own time. Part of this then means you have a bit of game theory to think about. You can't lie and flat out say you're super busy because then the staffer will never trust you. But if you show a lot of capacity, assume that a lot of pitches will come your way as well. Other times, a staffer will let people know in advance which projects are coming. If there's a project that you really like, that might be a good time to let your staffer know that you have capacity and that you would like to take on a specific project. FaceTime. People always ask this question: is there such a thing as FaceTime? And different people give different answers, and part of it depends on your group. The true answer is, I think there will always be some FaceTime, since you're dealing with people and psychology, and people's emotions matter. Think about it. If you always leave before people that are senior than you, even though they say they may not care, they probably care somewhat deep down inside, right? It's better to not run that risk and to understand that FaceTime may still be there. So, if you're an investment banking analyst and you're at the bottom of the totem pole, it's probably safest to be first in, last out, to show great attitude, to show that you care, and to make sure you don't unintentionally upset someone by leaving before them when they're much more senior than you. At the end of the day, it comes down to a judgment call, because the opposite is also true. Don't pretend to stay until midnight, 2 a.m. when you're working on a pitch and the only other person in the office is someone that's working on a live deal. Then it's very obvious that you have nothing better to do. Now, if you are on a live deal and you're working late, there is some room to come into the office a bit later. For example, if you pull an all-nighter, it's understandable if you show up slightly later. The goal in understanding when to come to the office and when to leave is understanding the group culture and to just make sure you don't stick out one way or the other. How do I get off a deal that I don't want to be on? So as an investment banking analyst, in the very beginning, the truth is you probably don't have very much leverage. And the truth is the second year and the third year analysts are pushing off projects that they don't want to be on onto the first year analysts. So part of that is understanding that you have to earn your stripes and you have to pay your dues. At some point, once you gain enough credibility and respect in the group, you can say, hey, I'm busy on these other projects. This one I don't have as much time for. And then those projects may get pushed down to some of the other first year analysts when you're a second year or interns. Dealing with toxic people. There's a term called hardos, which are people that try too hard, focus on things that have very little returns, burn time, try super hard to impress senior managers when it actually doesn't matter in terms of the little things they do. Those people can be a bit toxic. You have to do your best to manage them. And what that means is, again, in the very beginning, you just have to do your best to do your job and show that you're a team player. At some point, you can ask to work very little with them and not even work with these specific people. Other things you can do is speak with the other analysts in your class or other associates on how they deal with this specific person. Some have figured out ways that you have not seen yet, and this takes time. But if someone's truly a hardo and is always asking you to please fix this, left align that, you're probably not the only one to experience this. Understanding managing director quirks. Each managing director will like to get things done in a very different way. Some are extremely high level and don't need a very detailed book. Others are the exact opposite and will like 100-page presentations just for a pitch book. Others will like to see things every single step of the way, while others will only like to see a final product with maybe 1 or 2 iterations. One tip in dealing with different bankers is to write down everyone's specific quirk if you don't know it by hand. For example, when I was in investment banking, we had one managing director that was a bit insecure and would like to see drafts as soon as possible. As long as he understands where we're going with the pitch book, he will feel much more secure and much more comfortable. What this means is that even though these specific pages within a pitch book are not done, as long as we show him the outline of what we'll put on the page and he understands the skeleton of the pitch book, he will be fine with it. Expense policies. At an investment bank, generally speaking, dinners will be paid for by the firm because you're working late. And also, if you're working at the company past 9 or 10 p.m., black cars or yellow cabs will be expensed on the company dime. There are additional reimbursements available, for example, for travel if you were to go see a client for the day. Generally, those meals, the travel costs are all expensable. Just make sure you keep all your receipts. Now, sometimes analysts break the rules and try to expense things that are not work related. I have seen analysts get away with this, and I have also seen analysts really get in trouble for this. My personal suggestion is to not do it because it's not worth losing your job and your ability to find your next job, because when you interview, you have to explain why you lost your last job. And finally, let's talk about Lehman culture. The reason why I say this is because every firm is different, so it's important to learn to fit into the culture of your firm and to your specific group. Lehman Brothers was an investment bank where all the MDs wore watches and Ferragamo ties. If you happen to work at Barclays, at one of the old Lehman Brothers groups, for example, oil and gas or power and utilities, you will see that this is generally true. There is also a general culture in terms of investment banking analysts, where if you're a male, chances are you wear a white or blue dress shirt and some combination and a Patagonia vest. The goal in investment banking is to just not stick out. Don't wear an orange vest. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Also, visit our website at www.wallstreetsmart.com for additional resources.